Welcome everyone to Kyiv, Ukraine. Let's get started. All right, so today's webinar will include the geography and weather, history, current events, activities and sites, holidays, food, and finally, we're going to conclude with some fun facts and a nice summary video. All right, so let's start off with the geography first. Kyiv is located on the edge of the Polynesian woodland ecological zone and is a part of the European mixed woods area and the forest biome. Kyiv is located on both sides of the Dnieper, which flows southward through the city and towards the Black Sea. The Dnieper is a river that flows through the city. The city sits on many wooded hills and has a lot of smaller rivers. The summers are partly cloudy and the winters are long, freezing, and snowy. Over the year, the temperature varies from 20 degrees Fahrenheit or -7 degrees Celsius to 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius. Temperatures rarely reach above 1 degrees Fahrenheit or -17 Celsius or above 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which is also 31 degrees Celsius. All right, the history. Kyiv's recognized establishment date is 482 CE. However, archaeological evidence suggests that the city was founded in the 6th or 7th century. According to the 12th century chronicle, known as the Russian Primary Chronicle, Kyiv was founded by three brothers, Ki, Shek, and Koryvi, who were leaders of the Polynesian tribe of the East Slavs. The Vikings seized the city in the mid-9th century and used it as a good defensive site with its high river bluffs and rich agricultural areas. In 988, the introduction of Christianity to Kyiv enhanced its importance as the spiritual center of the Rus, which is also known as the East Slavic state. And at the height of its splendor, the city was named for its art, churches, and craftsmanship in silver. And as one of Europe's major cities, Kyiv established diplomatic relationships with the Byzantine Empire, England, France, and other countries. All right, so now we're jumping all the way to current events. As some of you may have heard, Russia's Vladimir Putin invaded multiple cities in Ukraine starting on February 24th, 2022, and has continued his attacks since then. Putin originally wanted to overrun Ukraine and dispose of its government in hopes to prevent its participation in NATO. However, he turned his attention towards Ukraine's east and south after his plan to capture the capital, Kyiv. There has been many civilian casualties, and many have fled to neighboring countries or further abroad in hopes to escape the violence. All right, so now we're going to take a look at some of the fun activities and sites. Kyiv Pechersk Lavra. This is one of the most important sites in Eastern Orthodox Christianity. The World Heritage Pechersk Lavra is an amazing complex of churches, bell towers, and caves. The tour is around 4 hours, and if you want to visit, make sure to arrive before the large crowd gets there. Women have to observe strict dress codes while they are there. They have to cover their hair, and they have to wear a skirt. Pirogovo. Make sure to visit the Kyiv Museum of Folk Architecture and Life. Rural architecture from 6 different Ukrainian regions have been moved to this site and reassembled into 6 different villages. There are more than 300 buildings, from churches to homes and workshops. You can walk through a living museum where you can watch time-honored practices such as foraging and weaving. The museum was founded in 1969 and has accumulated 70,000 artifacts. St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery. Over the edges of Dnieper, the St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery resides and dates back to the 12th century. It is an exquisite multi-domed cathedral with a bell tower that was constructed in an elaborate Baroque style. However, the internal spaces, it still kept its traditional Byzantine style. And although the building was torn down in the Soviet era when art was moved to Moscow, the building was rebuilt 70 years later. All right, the Motherland Monument. The Motherland Monument is a large 62-meter stainless statue that celebrates the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany during World War II. The monument is made of individual blocks of steel and is held together with more than 30 kilometers of welding. The higher of the monument's two observation decks is at the top of the shield. And in order to get to the upper deck, you need to wear a harness. Hirishko National Botanical Garden. The Botanical Garden is managed by the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. There are 13,000 types of trees, shrubs, and flowers from throughout the nation. And although the gardens are beautiful during every season, the best time to visit is at the end of the spring. During this time, lilac alleys, lilac bushes are in full bloom. Kreshatik is a central gathering point and is an upmarket shopping street in the city. Although it was destroyed during the Second World War, it was rebuilt in the Soviet neoclassical style. During the weekends and public holidays, road traffic is prohibited, and the street fills with lots of families and couples who walk along. There are lots of cafes and restaurants and ice cream shops. There are also outdoor terraces where people can sit and watch street performers. All right, so now we're going to talk about the holidays. The Ukrainian Christmas. Ukrainians have two Christmases. One is on December 25th, which is known as the Catholic Christmas, and the other is on January 7th, the Orthodox Christmas. The most important rituals that Ukrainians follow are the Christmas dinner and Christmas caroling. Family members cook Christmas dinner consisting of 12 fasting dishes that symbolize the 12 apostles. On Christmas Day, the fasting ends and Ukrainians go to church and visit relatives. Malanka. Malanka is an ancient holiday celebrated on January 13th. It combines Christian and pagan traditions and is celebrated to mark the change from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. Traditional Malanka is a loud, vibrant festival with lots of quirky costumes, songs, and performances. Maslenica is an ancient Eastern Slavic holiday that celebrates the end of winter and welcomes spring. Although it doesn't have a specific date, it is usually celebrated in the late February and early March days. The celebration lasts for about 1 week, and traditional food on Maslenica include dishes made with cheese and butter, varniki, which are dumplings, and pancakes. All right, so that's a perfect segue to the food. Chicken Kyiv is one of the most famous dishes in Ukraine, and it is also very well known outside the country as well. Although the traditional version of the dish incorporates the chicken bones, nowadays the boneless version is more popular. When preparing this Ukrainian dish, the chicken fillet is first flattened and wrapped around cold butter. Then the chicken is coated with a mix of cheese, parsley, and peppers and dipped in beaten yolk. All right. Varniki. This was mentioned in the previous slide, but Ukrainian varniki is commonly known as pierogi or pierogis. They are made with savory fillings like meat, potatoes, mushrooms, and cabbage. Cottage cheese or cherries are typically used for the sweet version, and they are commonly served with sour cream and sugar on top. Borscht. Borscht is a staple of Ukrainian cuisine. The soup is made from meat broth, cabbage, carrots, potatoes, onions, tomatoes, and beets, giving the soup its signature red color. Traditionally, it is served with sour cream on top, and every region and family has their own version of the soup. All right, so now we're going to go into the fun facts. Kiev is the traditional and most commonly used English name for the city, but in 1995, the Ukrainian government adopted Kiev, that spelling, as the mandatory name for all legislative and official acts. Kiev is a leading industrial and commercial center of these major industries. These include food processing, metallurgy, and textiles. Kiev is known as the greenest city. Um, the area of green zones covers around 43,600 hectares. Um, all right. Kiev was the first ever capital of the Kievan Rus, the first Russian state, and Kiev's unofficial logo is the chestnut. And the city has the top 5 most visited McDonald's in the world. All right. So going back to what's happening with the current events, we're also going to touch upon how you can help the Ukrainians. You can donate to these listed organizations. These include UNICEF, which supports health, nutrition, and education, sanitation, and protection for families caught in the Ukrainian conflict. You can donate to Doctors Without Borders, and they work with local volunteers and organizations to help people travel to healthcare facilities and access prescribed medication. You can join protests and demonstrations in your city. You can sign petitions to terminate relationships with companies that have Russian ties and petition to demand more military support for Ukraine to end the war. And there's a link included in the slide as well. And also just generally raising awareness about the situation are good steps to take as well. And that concludes our tour. Thank you everyone for visiting Kiev, Ukraine.